Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about the official teaser trailer that came out for Deadpool and Wolverine. If you haven't seen it already, I'll include a link to it in the description down below. First and foremost, I think it's so interesting that the movie is titled that, because obviously, I don't know, I guess it didn't really correlate in my head that there would be a subtitle because we had Deadpool 1, we had Deadpool 2, but I guess we're kind of doing Deadpool and Wolverine to kind of delineate that it's soft rebootish, even though we are continuing the story from Deadpool 1 and 2, but I guess it's like this way you kind of mark that, well, first and foremost, that it's more of a buddy cop movie than, kind of already knew it kind of was going to be one anyway, but I guess it also like instills in you like, oh, like the fact is that Wolverine's getting top billing title wise must mean he's going to be in a movie quite a bit. Kind of figured he would be, but I don't know. I just think it's so interesting. Like I said, I guess it's supposed to lean into almost like a, hey, like just kind of showcasing, like letting you know, like, now this isn't like fully continuing where we were. This is kind of let you know a little bit, like I said, soft rebooting it into the MCU. So I guess that's where the titling comes into play. But it makes me wonder, timeline wise, like how long has it been since Deadpool 2? Because there's a lot of questions I have. Is this because of the nature of where the story is, where we see later on Wade is with the TVA, which I'll get to in a second. He's seeing the Avengers. He's seeing like scenes from Thor Ragnarok, and I think he saw some stuff from Age of Ultron. He's seeing Steve Rogers. But the question then becomes, is this the same time frame as, like, is it supposed to imply, like, is the Deadpool movie still stuck inside of the Fox universe X-Men timeline wise? So is it like 2023 2024 timeline wise there, or is it like MCU timeline wise? Like, I'm not saying it's in the MCU at this point where the movie starts. I'm wondering, is it more so a situation that because mainline timeline MCU wise it's more like 2025 or 2026 because of the 5-year time skip, and even more time has subsequently passed since the end of Endgame. So I'm wondering, is Deadpool taking place like where it's like Deadpool 2 took place like 2018? I'm curious, like, is it even further in the timeline now, or is it still like 2023 2024 for the Deadpool and Wolverine movies? Questions like that I'm curious about. I'm curious about him and Vanessa, because obviously he's got all his friends around celebrating his birthday, but then, you know, him and Vanessa seem like they're at odds. So, which I have to go back and rewatch Deadpool 2, because I've seen quite a bit of Deadpool 1 recently, but I have not seen any of Deadpool 2 since I originally watched it when it originally came out. So I'm definitely going to go back, because at first I was like, wait, Vanessa's alive. I was like, all right, timey-wimey stuff. I forgot, like, obviously Deadpool 2 involved time travel, especially because Deadpool went back through and, you know, time travel and corrected a lot of mistakes. I think it's interesting that it seemed like there was something there. Once again, it's a teaser. We don't get a lot of context, but it seems like there's some issues there. I don't know if that's like a relationship thing. Is it maybe Wade feeling a little lost, kind of like, oh, a little purposeless, because like, man, it's, you know, I've been doing this Deadpool thing for a while, and it's just like, oh, it's just becoming dull and routine. Haven't been on any exciting adventures. There hasn't been anything that's, maybe he's kind of like being a real meta about of like, oh, I haven't done anything for the past couple years. I've just been sitting on the sideline since I fixed everything. I kind of saved the day, and now it's just life is dull and trying to find that excitement again. And then lo and behold shows up the TVA, which I think it's so interesting, because the TVA, both the agents as well as, because none of the agents we saw are people we're familiar with from Loki. So it makes me wonder, like, okay, so there's a larger conversation where sometimes alternate timelines and the conversation about alternate universes end up kind of overlapping, even though they are different things, because all of Loki revolved around alternate timelines, not necessarily alternate universes, whereas Deadpool, I think, is going to involve alternate universes rather than alternate timelines, or maybe there's going to be a little bit of both and overlap. I don't know, because maybe that's the justification of the TVA we know for Loki. That's the MCU's TVA, and the Fox universe has its own TVA, because these are separate universes, which with each one kind of dealing with alternate timelines in their respective regards. I don't know if that's what that's supposed to be, but then it's like Deadpool being shown the MCU stuff makes me go like, okay, so does that mean that Universal stuff is bleeding over because of these incursions that are happening that were kind of set up at the end of Multiverse of Madness and everything? So I'm wondering if that's supposed to like correlate in that regard. It's also interesting too, because they're setting up Deadpool to kind of have a similar story situation to Loki, where he kind of gets brought in by the TVA, which I think is so interesting. Which I'm obviously Deadpool being as meta as it is, it's like, oh wait, didn't you guys already do this with Loki? So you're doing this with me now? And it could be like, well, that was a different TVA, but it's like, aren't we rehashing the same story? I mean, I get it. Tom Hiddleston, he's hotter than me, and I look like a ball sack. I get it. So, but like, aren't the audiences like? I could see them getting really, really meta with that if that ends up being the direction they go. But it's like, if that's the case, why is he fighting the TVA later on? So that's why I'm like, are these the real TVA agents? Are these people who are pretending to be the TVA? Like, is Wade supposed to go around destroying all these other timelines in the Fox universe and stuff like that? He's killing the Fox Marvel universe. And then he kind of starts second guessing himself. Is that where Logan comes into place? He was supposed to kill Logan, but he doesn't. And now it's like, oh, this is where the buddy cop thing happens, because they start off as enemies and eventually join forces, from what we kind of know a little bit behind the scenes of the movie. So, but what's that conversation like? Is it? I wonder, is this almost supposed to be like a little bit of a commentary on Batman v Superman? Because they even have this line in it, because Deadpool 2 had that joke of like, oh, you're so dark. What is this, the DC universe? And then in this one, Wade's like, oh, the power in the MCU is going to change forever or something like that. The power, like, I was wondering, whatever the line was exactly, I'm paraphrasing and messing it up, but I wonder if it was supposed to be like a wink and nod to the whole Black Adam situation, where The Rock said like, oh, the hierarchy of in the MCU is about to change forever. I mean, in the DC universe is about to change forever. So I wonder if it's supposed to be like another dig at DC in that capacity. In some regards, I don't know if that's what they were going for or not. I could easily be reading way too much into it, but I'm curious if there's a correlation in that capacity. I'm also curious about who the main villain's going to be. I wonder if they're going to pull a little bit of a Loki, where it's like, oh, it ended up being He Who Remains, but, you know, some people were wondering if it was just going to be another Loki, because the villain of Loki was Sylvie initially. So I wonder, is Wade going to have to go up against another Deadpool? Like, well, I mean, he already dealt with the other Deadpool that we're aware of in the Fox universe. He killed that version of himself from X-Men Origins, correcting that. So how much more correcting you have to do? I mean, to be fair, that's what got him on the TVA's radar, is probably everything he did in season 2, in Deadpool 2. I don't know where I've heard this. I don't know if this is a rumor. I don't know if this has been confirmed. Why do I feel like I vaguely remember hearing that Mr. Sinister was going to be like the main antagonist of this movie? But I'm also wondering if I'm pulling that from the video game, because I don't think he was the main antagonist of the Deadpool video game, but what, he wanted it, bad guys you cross paths with? I can't remember. I don't know if he's a villain where like people wanted him as a main Marvel villain and brought in, or whether I've heard that somewhere that Mr. Sinister was going to be. Could we say someone from behind, but it's just them? Like, it looked like it could be a bald person, so I don't know if it's supposed to be like Patrick Stewart or maybe James McAvoy returning as like Xavier in some capacity. Obviously, that's a big thing too. Like, how many of these people, how many cameos are we going to get? We've heard rumors about some of them. Obviously, I won't talk about any of them here, but there's been some speculation and rumors around about what cameos, what people are returning to reprise what role. Obviously, we have Aaron Stanford returning as Pyro, which I completely forgot about until like someone was like, hey, we get our first look at Pyro. I was like, Pyro? I was like, wait, he played Pyro? At least in X-Men 2. I think it was someone else who played him in the first one, but in X-Men 2, he played Pyro, which I completely forgot about. I don't remember if he was in X-Men Last Stand or not, but which is interesting on its own. And now this is just going to be me connecting dots, because I do this and I think it's funny and interesting. But Aaron Stanford, yes, he's in this because he played Pyro, so we're bringing him back. But also, he was in a TV show called 12 Monkeys. If you don't know what 12 Monkeys is, it's a time travel TV show. Really great time travel TV show, I should add. But it's based on a movie of the same name that came out in the 90s. It had Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt in it, which is interesting because Brad Pitt had a small, very small cameo appearance in Deadpool 2. So once again, I'm connecting dots that aren't relevant, and I doubt the movie will tackle any of that, but that's just the way my mind works sometimes, where I'll connect dots of like, oh, that's just interesting. I don't know if they planned on that, and I just think that's kind of funny and interesting. But either way, obviously it's a teaser. We don't know the full scale and scope of just like what everything's fully about, where the story is going to go, how it's going to end, and what journey Wade is going to take, and you know what this means in the grander schemes of the MCU. And you know, it's, you know, will they tackle any of the Kang stuff where that currently lies, where it's like, can they even do anything with Kang, or are they just going to leave it where it is? Because some people are like, the way Loki's ended, it could just be like a, well, the way season 2 ends, you can be like, nope, it's all wrapped up, it's all in a pretty little bow, you don't have to worry about it. Makes you wonder, would Tom Hiddleston make some kind of pop in, but like I said, that depends on if this is the Fox universe and he's in the MCU universe, and unless some incursions happen that kind of like collapse all of this in, which will probably be the end result. But it's like, will this be set up for Secret Wars? There's just so much to kind of consider and think about. So obviously these are just my thoughts. Love to get to know yours in the comments down below. What did you think about the teaser? What are your thoughts and theories going forward about this movie and what it can mean in the grand scheme of the MCU? What do you think is going on? Do you agree with some of the stuff I brought up? Do you disagree? I'd love to get to know your thoughts. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.